Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton Grundy from the Reiki Center. In this video, I want to explore mindfulness, and particularly after my experience with a quite a popular secular teaching of mindfulness called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And it's a course that I've recently been on. I was thinking long and hard about making this video because I really don't want to insult anybody or offend anybody who has been on the course, or for those teaching the course. I really enjoyed the course teaching. I thought it was really well done, and I enjoyed the participants that were part of the course I was on. So I tread carefully because I really don't want to offend anybody. And for many of you, I know MBSR is a real lifeline. But I think that I also felt called to put it into a bigger context, because for those of you who might have tried it or who are looking at mindfulness on the whole, I really feel it's important to put it into the perspective or historical alignment, if you like, as to where mindfulness has come from and where it sits on the spiritual journey. So MBSR is kind of being plucked out of a broader spiritual process, a little bit like yoga, like the bloody Western people, seriously. You take this deeply profound practice of yoga and you pluck out the exercise part of it, and you add some goats and a beer, and you have Western yoga, which has really no correlation whatsoever to the origins of yoga as part of, and the exercise part is only one of, the 8 wheels. So we've kind of taken what we want and we've, in a sense, dumbed it down. And again, I don't want to cause offense to anybody, but in my experience of this course, we take something as profound as mindfulness as a stepping stone to a really deeply profound inward inquiry, and we kind of dumb it down and we market it to the masses. So I have to say that part of being on the course I really struggled with, because there is this overarching question as to why. So we're learning how to attend to the breath, how to walk mindfully, how to eat mindfully, how to be more present in our day-to-day interactions with life. So, for example, when we walk, we become much more aware. We're not just stuck in our heads. Often when we walk for exercise, for example, we're so stuck in our heads, we might as well have been in a treadmill, because we're not noticing the nature, the interaction of birds, the sounds, the fragrance, the actual movement of our body as we walk through the air. Like, we're not aware of any of this. We're just in our heads doing our thing. So from that viewpoint, mindfulness is really powerful, because it gets us to engage more with the life we're in. And if we're not really prepared to do that, then we miss that whole physical interaction with the world that we move through. And then we really might as well just spend our life glued to our phones, or spend our life with one of those, virtual reality goggles on, because we're not actually participating in the 5 senses aspect of life. So I do see that the workshops like MBSR very powerful, because it gets you to start thinking about the actual livingness, and that brings a huge amount more satisfaction and joy than being in your head, because being in your head is rather hollow. And I'm sure that any of you who have participated in mindfulness, or just been on holiday and looked at a sunset, or had moments in your life where you feel deeply connected to the life that is all around you, that is by far more satisfying than watching TikTok. And I know TikTok can be hugely addictive. I've also been addicted to it. but it's not very satisfying. And all that happens when you put down an instrument like that is your mind is more disturbed than it was in the beginning of that interaction. And that to me is a very strong signal that you're going in the wrong direction, because actually the mind should be at rest for most of the time and active when we need it to be, not the other way around. And I think part of the problems and the benefits of programs like MBSR is that it really helps us to regain control of our minds and not having our minds control us. But this also brings me to my issue with MBSR or any of these secular, sterilized, dumbed down versions of mindfulness or meditation for that matter, is that actually when we look at the ultimate goal of meditation, of which mindfulness is an aspect of, the ultimate goal of meditation is to help us answer the question, what am I? Now, I use what deliberately because I know the more common phrase is, who am I? But the problem with that is that when we ask the question, who am I? We automatically look for a person or a personage or a soul or an entity of some sort. When you ask the question, what am I? Then you open it up into a much more unknown space where anything could arise. And that to me is the ultimate goal of meditation. Now, when we first start sitting, we are so thoroughly brainwashed into this idea that we are a person. I am Elaine, and I have a history, and I was born in this place, and I do this for a job, and blah, blah, blah. My sense of identification with all the different experiences of my life, my history, what has brought me to this stage, who I think I am, who other people have told me I am, how I sit within the societal cultural framework of who I am and what I am and whatever I'm doing, so restricts and narrows my sense of vision that when you first start asking the question, who am I? It just sounds absurd. You're like, well, obviously I'm Elaine and I was born here and I do this and I had this education and I come from this family background. And I mean, it seems obvious. What a stupid question. But ultimately, it's a deeper question, which is where the meditation comes in. So, for example, in traditional meditation practice, when we first start, we start to disengage, or we start to gain more control around our body. So often part of meditation is, how do I relax my body? Because if I can't relax my body, if my body is tense, or if it is not comfortable to sit, it's very, very difficult, because everything is connected. So if I can't really relax my body, then it's going to be very difficult to relax my mind, and vice versa. So then the mindfulness is really the training of relaxing the mind. And that's all it is. So yes, I can see how it's useful to be able to relax the mind when you're stressed and living in this very individualized life. But in the meditation practice, you relax the body, you relax the mind, and you become then able to see that when your mind is relaxed and your body is relaxed, there is still a presence. There is still a sense of awareness or awakeness that exists when the mind and the body are relaxed. And then you get into these spaces whereby you can have periods of no thought, or periods of seeing, because you're not caught in the thinking. You have periods where you can identify thoughts. Now, that might not seem a big deal, but actually it's a really big deal when you can start to see that your thoughts are separate from you. Now, when we think about this logically, we're like, well, yeah, of course. But do you really see the profundity of this? If we are not our thoughts, then when the mind is quiet and there are no thoughts, what is left? What the hell? Who is this person? And that is the point of mindfulness. The point of mindfulness is to get us to the point where we can do the proper work, where we can do the proper inquiry. And the inquiry is, what am I? Like, what the hell is going on, really? Like, what is this? What is happening? And these are very taboo questions for a lot of us. And I've noticed that a lot is as soon as I start to ask these difficult questions, people get quite upset and uptight with me. And I'm like, or they just look at me completely blankly, like I'm an alien. Now, for those of you who are listening to this, whereby you're piqued, your interest, something in you is piqued by what I'm saying, I'm talking to you, because there is something within all of us that is awake and alert for these types of questions, and they either grab you or they really don't. Like if you're not alert to it, if you're not awake to it, then yay, just get on with your life and enjoy your life. And MBSR is probably, and yoga with goats and beer is probably great for you because you're wanting something else out of it. But for those of you who, when I say that once you practice and you have the mastery of relaxing the body, the mind, being able to rest, and then being able to start the real work of inquiry. The real work of inquiry is when I can see my thoughts as clouds, right? When I can see that my body is simply a vehicle for which awareness shines through, then the inquiry as to what exactly is that awareness, what exactly is that awakeness, that alertness, the presence that I feel behind or embracing or observing all those thoughts and body sensations. When we do mindful breathing, we start to become very aware that the breath comes in through the nostrils, goes down into the belly, comes up into the chest, into the shoulders, and back out again. That there is a different quality of the breath as it comes in, sometimes cold, a little bit dry, a bit sharper, out, moist, warmer, different. But the key thing is not that. Yeah, you can do that. Great, brilliant. There's a certain sense of calmness and grounding that happens just with that. But that's not the point. The point is, who is witnessing this? Like, what are you? Who are you? And when these questions are not asked, then things like mindfulness simply become another Band-Aid. And this is what I found. This is what I found with the course as well. It was just another Band-Aid. It's like you do this and you do this for 30 minutes every day, and you have to do it for 30 minutes every day, because if you don't, then the Band-Aid's going to peel off, and then all your usual strife and stress and crap is going to just come out of you. So it's not like you are ever going to get to the point where you don't need to practice anymore. Because every time you stop practicing, then you realize that actually you haven't really changed anything. So to me, that's just a Band-Aid. When you start to really inquire deeply as to what am I, what is this awareness, then things really start to change in a very profound way. And that's, to me, the whole point of mindfulness is one tool to get you to the point where you can do the work. Because if you are not mindful and you're not relaxed and you're not feeling good in your physical, mental body, and you can't even begin to start to separate, you're so engaged with your thinking that you don't realize you're not your thinking. You're so engaged with your body that you don't realize the body is just a vehicle. So I think these tools are really important, but unless we teach people why they're doing it, then it's just another kind of pretty pointless exercise, in my humble opinion. Okay. So Yeah, so as you can imagine, I kind of struggled with that point quite a lot because I'm like, so here's the analogy I came up with, which actually made me giggle. But it's a bit like we crawl as babies, right? So we're crawling and we're crawling, and then we get to a field, and then we learn how to walk. And that's a little bit like we learn mindfulness, right? So we learn how to walk in this field, and we walk around and we notice, oh my God, things are easier. I can get places. I can move more freely. I have a better view because I'm higher up, because I'm standing. And it's like, oh, everything, this is good. I like walking. And then you finish your half an hour walking, and then you get out of the field, and then you crawl home because you haven't realized that walking is an evolutionary process, and walking is next. And then you walk all the time. You don't just walk in the field. And with mindfulness, it's the same thing. You don't just go in, sit, do your half an hour practice, be mindful, and then get off the mat and then carry on with your chaotic life. The whole point of mindfulness is that it becomes you. Like, you're constantly aware you're not your thinking, like constantly, and you're constantly aware you're not your body. And yet the thinking and the movement of the body and the vehicle of the body, all of these things are still encapsulating what you are, but do not define what you are. They're simply the vehicles so that you can operate, right? And so from that sense of view, we are confined, like we are confined to the body, and we are confined to the mind in a sense. But then in another sense, we're really not. And the inquiry part of it, the what am I really, is the juice. It's the gift that we have as being human, because we are self-conscious, unlike a lot of other living creatures. So we have this amazing gift that we can self-inquire. We can ask these questions, and we can get answers, and we can see for ourselves what's going on. Anyway, just my thoughts. And so for those of you who are doing mindfulness practice and you're missing the juice, like me, you're sitting there going, what's the point? I sit and listen to the birds, and I watch my breathing, and I observe my thoughts. Like, who gives a shit? So what? I could be watching Netflix instead. Maybe it's because you're missing this rather critical point as to why we're mindful in the first place. And maybe just taking that inquiry one stage further. So as you're doing your breathing, you're noticing the breathing. Let's say you're doing mindfulness breathing, you're noticing the breathing. And once you really become aware that someone is noticing, who is noticing? Take that, as Adyashanti would say, take the backward step and go deeper. Like, okay, I'm noticing my breathing, but who am I? What am I? This presence that notices. And the same when you get to your thinking, and you can start to see the thoughts as thought patterns, and you're not entangled in them. They're just simply appearing and then magically disappearing as you look at them, appearing and disappearing. But the space in which these thoughts appear and disappear, and that awareness that notices the thoughts appearing and disappearing, that is where your attention should be. And just taking that next step back. And then once you start to see, oh, this is the point, then mindfulness becomes super exciting and you want to do it. And then this idea of, oh, I can't find the time and blah, 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 just becomes irrelevant, because it becomes something really profound. And then you want to take that next step. And you can do it with your Reiki practice as well. When you're doing your Reiki practice, perfect, because you're lying there anyway for half an hour or an hour or however long you're doing it. Take this opportunity to be mindful in terms of, oh, I can see that my mind is settling and my body is relaxing. This is really the perfect environment in which we can open into this awareness and then see what it is. So thank you very much for listening, and wishing you Lots of love. Bye.